The information provided on Terminal Addiction Podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified provider with any questions you might have regarding medical or mental health condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay seeking it because of something you heard on this podcast. The views and opinions expressed by the guests, the hosts, are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organization or institutions. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we make no guarantee regarding the completeness, reliability, or applicability of the content discussed. Listening to this podcast does not establish provider-patient relationship. If you're experiencing a medical emergency or mental health crisis, please contact emergency services or crisis line immediately. Welcome to a special edition of Terminal Addiction Podcast. This episode, I'm interviewing a gentleman named Randy from Recovery Dharma. Just kind of giving us an introduction to what Recovery Dharma is, some of the philosophies, and what it has to offer. Thanks.
Hey, Paul. How are you today?
Good. Nice to talk to you. So tell me a little bit about Recovery Dharma. I know that a lot of our listeners don't have any idea what Recovery Dharma is.
Recovery Dharma is a Buddhist-inspired approach to recovery from addictions of all kinds. So not only substances, but also process addictions like sex, gambling, technology, etc. It is a Buddhist-inspired program, but not required. So you don't have to believe in anything to be a member other than your own potential to change and heal your life. I'd say of the 20,000 or so members worldwide who attend the 800 or so meetings, the vast majority are not Buddhists, probably more than 90%. They are just people who have found meditation and mindfulness to be helpful to them on their recovery journey. The program is radically inclusive, not only in that it includes people from all different types of addiction, but also that it really encourages diversity and equity and accessibility of the program. It has many affinities, which are for people suffering from specific addictions or people with certain non-dominant identities like BIPOC meetings, LGBTQ plus meetings. Our belief is that everyone deserves a safe place to recover where they feel free from stigma or judgment. So we really encourage those affinity groups to be created and curated throughout our community. The program is also trauma-informed. This means that it takes the modern understanding of addiction, the scientific evidence-based practices and principles underlying modern treatment for substance use disorder, and then it combines them with these ancient Buddhist practices to sort of create something new. So it honors that trauma is a major cause of addictive behavior, and it seeks to heal that craving at the root, that craving for to be able to feel differently, to be able to change the way I feel using something outside of myself. So it kind of goes deeper. It goes beyond just trying to stop the addictive behavior, and it goes more towards how do I cultivate a life that is so beautiful that I don't want to engage in the addictive behavior, that the idea of losing this presence that I've created repulses me. It's very compassion-oriented in that way. It's really aimed at kind of going on the offense and not just the defense.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I've done a little bit of looking into it. It sounds very interesting. So are you also looking at relationships such as family relationships, other relationships that the individual with addiction has?
Absolutely. The program has been adapted for family and friends. So there is a meeting that exists for family members, loved ones of those with substance use disorders. And then, yes, much of the Recovery Dharma program is aimed at working with others in a skillful way. That means being more mindful of my speech. It means being more mindful of my actions taking accountability for my actions when they harm others, making amends to others when I've caused harm. So the program, again, is very holistic in that way. It kind of uses the foundational principles of Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths, and the Eightfold Path as sort of the framework for recovery, much like, the anonymous programs use the 12 steps. Recovery Dharma uses those Buddhist teachings. And the Eightfold Path in particular is really just an ethical framework for living one's life in harmony with others and in harmony with oneself through wise understanding and intention and speech and action and livelihood and effort and mindfulness and concentration. We can live a life where we cause less harm and we suffer less. And the less we suffer, then the less likely we are to reach for that thing that perpetually causes us to suffer even more. That thing that was the solution to our problem, but then started to become a much bigger problem.
Sure. So tell me a little bit of how you guys started. You're down in Birmingham, Alabama. I watched a couple of your videos. So how did you get started down there?
Well, here in Birmingham, there have been meditation-based 12 Steps meetings for many years. And back in the early 2010s, a lot of people started reading a book called One Breath at a Time by Kevin Griffin, which is kind of like the first text that really tried to combine the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous with Buddhist teachings. Shortly after that, a program of recovery called Refuge Recovery was started, and that program in about 2019 kind of schismed and turned into two different programs. There is still Refuge Recovery, which has, I think, a couple hundred meetings in North America, and then there's also Recovery Dharma, which kind of broke away from Refuge Recovery in 2019, and Recovery Dharma has grown to close to 800 meetings with about I think almost like a 60-40 split between in-person and online meetings. And then, of course, some of those are hybrid. So in 2019, the Birmingham Sangha, and Sangha is just the word that we use for community, it broke away from the Refuge Recovery community and became a Recovery Dharma community, one of the first. And for the last 6 years, it's just continued to grow. At first, there was just a couple meetings. Now we have almost every day of the week, we have online meetings. Most of our meetings are hybrid, so you can attend them from anywhere in the world. And that's a beautiful thing because, this program is still growing. If you live in a major city, chances are there's one close to you.
Sure.
But if you live in a more rural area, the good news is that you can still use this as your primary recovery pillar of support, or as a pillar of support that complements another pathway like the 12 Steps, like Smart Recovery, because there are online meetings almost every hour of every day.
Wow. I live in the Columbus, Ohio area, and it was kind of seeing that there was a Recovery Dharma meeting in our area that drove me to look a little deeper. And so I reached out, and of course you responded, and I'm grateful. So are you on a personal recovery journey as well?
Yes, I'm a personal long-term recovery, which means for the last several years, I haven't ingested any mood or mind-altering substances. Although it's been several years, you notice I don't identify as an alcoholic or addict like you would in a 12-step meeting. That's part of our approach. We find that certain practices used in the 12-step rooms can be stigmatizing or shame-inducing.
Sure.
So we kind of move away from those approaches. Again, with the understanding that program has saved millions of lives, and we don't denigrate it, and we fully support members who want to work that program and the Recovery Dharma program. But yes, I had about a 25-year stretch of just ingesting large quantities of alcohol, marijuana, and amphetamines, and I suffered incredible karmic consequences due to my use. It impacted my relationships, my professional career, my mental and physical well-being to the extent that in 2017, I suffered neurotoxicity in my brain due to the number of drugs that I was using, and was diagnosed with something called Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Yes.
And was paralyzed and locked inside my body for a long period of time, about 45 days, from the top of my head to the tips of my toes, totally conscious and aware of what was happening to me, but unable to move, unable to speak, unable to breathe. I had a long period of physical rehabilitation from that illness. And then once I was strong enough to drive a car again, I immediately went out and started using again. So at that point, it became very clear to me that I wasn't going to be able to figure this out on my own. Because, I'd had that experience where a higher power, or whatever you want to call it, had come down and literally paralyzed me so that I couldn't hurt myself anymore. So at that point, I went to treatment, and I went to inpatient treatment, which was very helpful to me. I really needed a high level of intervention after 25 years. And yes, when I was there, I learned that if you do what you've always done, you will get what you've always gotten. And I needed to find a new way to live and be in the world. 12 steps, while I did work them in early recovery and they were incredibly helpful to me, the program didn't resonate with me. Something about the character defect languaging, it just doesn't resonate with my understanding of the human condition, which is more aligned with Buddhism, which is basically that I am born whole, that I am born pure, and that over the course of my life, due to trauma and addiction, I acquired all of these unhealthy coping mechanisms. But underneath all of that, I wasn't defective. There was a part of me that was pure, and it was available to me at any time. I just had to recover it, and I really that really resonated with me. So I started going to those meetings. The meditation that we practice at Recovery Dharma meetings, the meeting is very similar in structure to a 12-step meeting. The only real difference is that instead of having some long readings at the beginning of the meeting, we go into a guided meditation. So that meditation is usually lasts somewhere between 12 and 15 minutes, and it's really aimed at just cultivating that compassion for oneself, for others. It can also be aimed at learning how to sit with emotional distress, which is a very important skill to develop in recovery. So I really found a lot of healing in that meditation practice. And as a result, when I learned about the program, I was like, this just seems more aligned with what I believe and what I would like to do and what's helpful to me, with the understanding that for every unique individual, there will be a unique path of recovery that is best, that one size fits all doesn't fit everyone. So I worked that program, and then I also worked that in conjunction with Smart Recovery. I'm a Smart Recovery facilitator. Smart Recovery is a cognitive behavioral therapy approach to recovery from addictions of all kinds. They also have meetings all over North America, all over the world, probably more than 2,000 meetings now. Also has online meetings almost every day of the week, every hour of the day. So it's another path of recovery that is available to people. It uses a lot of really practical, common sense, rational-based tools to kind of work through, what am I believing that's leading me into using this substance or engaging in this behavior that's harming me. And so those two programs together, with Smart Recovery being very head-centric and Recovery Dharma being very heart-centric, they formed a really good path for me. And as a result, I've kind of now made it my livelihood and really my sacred work to go around and do my best to make people aware of these programs, make them aware that they are available, and that they have many, many things, and just kind of encouraging people to be curious about exploring them, because if you're anything like me, you don't necessarily know what you like or what's helpful to you until you actually experience it. So I spent many years working with the Recovery Dharma global nonprofit, sort of as the peer leader, helping to start meetings all over North America, and just kind of managing the website and the list and responding to people's email queries, arranging events, that kind of thing, just kind of trying to cultivate that community and build it up. And about a little over a year ago, I transitioned from that into working for a nonprofit called the Addiction Prevention Coalition, where I'm doing a lot of peer support work here in Central Alabama, really trying to make the multiple pathways of recovery a reality. A lot of people pay lip service to it. They say, oh, it's important that we have choices because choices are empowering. But then if you go to a lot of treatment centers throughout North America, they're still funneling pretty much everyone into the same pathway.
Right.
So I think that it would benefit everyone to have choices, to have that ability to see what works for them, with the recognition that what works for each of us might be a little different, and that's okay. So that's really become my passion and my purpose, is really to spread awareness of these multiple pathways of recovery.
No, I totally appreciate that. So the counselor that is the other member of this podcast, he's not here today, but he and I have fallen into the AA, but he's also done Smart Recovery. My background is that I was a paramedic for 10 years. I have a lot of PTSD and trauma from that. And so in the podcast, we try to reach out and give people the options. There is no one path to recovery. I have looked at one of our episodes, actually the episode that we're planning on tagging this to is going to be one on religion versus spirituality. And I thought this would fit in really well with that topic. And certainly the information that you've given me has been very helpful. I like the idea of not blaming everything on what I did. There were things that happened in my life professionally that I had no control over. Including I have a mother who she died from a few years ago, but she died as a recovering alcoholic as well. And so there's a lot of recovery that I need to do within myself. That you talked about what's in your head versus what's in your heart. I totally appreciate that.
For sure. And with trauma in particular, you have to heal that at the root. Otherwise, that will continue to manifest in different ways that are harmful to you and then ultimately to others, because when I harm myself, eventually I will implode and others will become the collateral damage of that implosion. Yeah. So I appreciate that. In other programs, the focus is on, in the 12 steps, there's a lot of focus on cleaning up your own side of the street. And, that fourth column of the fourth step, really focusing on what your part was in things. And I understand that, and I think that can be very helpful. But for a lot of people who have severe attachment injury or severe PTSD, they need a place to heal where they aren't going to feel judged if they share about those things. And also for people with non-dominant identities, people who are oppressed by systems that are still existing today, that function to discriminate against them, they should have a place where they can come and talk about that stuff without somebody wagging their finger or saying no outside issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we try to foster that sense of community and that sense of this is a safe place to talk about whatever is causing you to suffer, because whatever is relevant to your suffering is relevant to your recovery.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was in nursing school, and that was 25 years ago. An instructor came up to me afterwards and she said, "You really need help?" And I said, No, I'm fine. It's been, something I've been dealing with for, at that point, 10 years. And it was later on that I really broke down. I had all those feelings that were just festering. And it wasn't until I went to treatment and in recovery, I started dealing with some of those issues.
Absolutely. In Recovery Dharma, we teach that if you don't have your feelings, they will have you one way or the other. Yeah. And you really have to learn how to feel them to heal them. If you resist them, they will persist. They will manifest in unhelpful ways. So learning to sit with our discomfort short term so that we can have long-term stability and balance. That's the goal. That's the exact opposite of addiction, which is I want this short-term relief so bad that I'm willing to sacrifice my long-term harmony and balance. So having a safe place to practice that with community is so important, because for so many of us, the hallmark of our addiction was isolation, both physical, mental, and emotional. Sure. So having a place that we can go and sit in the circle and say the hard thing and see the compassion in everyone else's eyes, that helps us give it to ourselves. So I love that idea of no matter what that secret shame is, no matter what that trauma is, I can feel safe to show up in these circles and I can speak it out. And just by speaking it out loud, some of it dissipates, some of that
absolutely.
feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I run a Saturday meeting, and we open it up to not just AA, but NA and ACA and anyone who wants to come. And one of the overriding themes is, that guilt and shame that people walk in with. Most of the people that come to the meeting are newly sober, and so there's a lot of pain there.
Absolutely. And learning how to process that pain is really the work of all different types of therapeutic recovery. And we can learn to have tea with our demons. We can learn how to invite those feelings we don't like in, sit down with them, make sure they feel witnessed and seen, and then let them go and move forward in a skillful way. And that's really what we're trying to do. Because again, when we take the feelings and we push them down like a beach ball under the water, it's only a matter of time before they fly back up and hit us in the face. So I'm really so grateful for the practices that I've learned in Recovery Dharma, in Smart Recovery, that are really aimed at managing those feelings and expressing them in a healthy way, in a therapeutic way. And again, for everyone, that might look different. For some, it might come through, therapy with a cognitive behavioral therapist. With others, it might be through art or through some kind of physical mental exploration like yoga. And I love that everybody's recovery looks different and everybody's recovery is valid, so long as we approach it with that intention of healing, that radical acceptance of ourselves and of others and of reality. I find that I've seen a lot of people get a lot of healing in those rooms through those practices.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you sitting down with me for a few minutes. And again, this episode's going to air sometime January, February. We're trying to tag it up with another episode that Doug and I are doing together. But you've given me some insight. I'm certainly going to dig a little deeper into what Recovery Dharma is. And I welcome anyone listening to reach out and learn a little more as well. There are meetings throughout the country as well as online meetings. So again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organization. This content is for informational purposes only and is not intended for professional advice. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Until next time.